Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and a very warm welcome if you're new here. With Pride Month coming to a close, I wanted to wish everyone a very happy Pride. I hope you had an amazing month surrounded by a lot of love and acceptance from the people closest to you. Today's video is extra exciting because not only will I be making my very first Pride doll, but I'm also hosting a collab. A good while ago, I reached out to a bunch of fellow doll artists that I admire, asking if they wanted to make Pride dolls together, and to my surprise and delight, a few of them said yes. We decided fairly quickly that we wanted to make dolls inspired by the colors of the different Pride flags, and later decided to make fairy folk, little adorable rainbow-colored forest creatures of all shapes, colors, and sizes. Joining me in this collab is I Could Do That DIY, Starlight Dream Dolls, and Steffu Doll. So once you're done with my video, be sure to check out the amazing dolls that they created. Also, a quick shout out to Rachel from Blurred Colors Art, who wanted to join but unfortunately couldn't. Please go show her channel some love too. She's really nice, super talented, and helped me gather people for this collab in the first place. With that said, let's get into today's video. As mentioned, we each chose one of the Pride flags to represent with our dolls. I chose the demisexuality flag because it's something I myself identify with. Demisexuality falls on the spectrum of asexuality, and is defined as not experiencing primary physical attraction to another person. The kind of attraction most people feel from immediately observable characteristics like physical appearance, but instead needing a mental and/or emotional connection for that type of attraction to form. For me, it means that I need to really know someone's personality and soul before I find them attractive or want anything romantic with them. I knew I wanted to combine the colors of the flag with something from nature, and while researching that, I came across this little guy. This is a Castell hummingbird, and they have nearly the exact same colors as the Demi flag. Their colors are even placed in a similar way. They're not native to my country, but I just couldn't resist making a little flightless pixie with them in mind. Why flightless? Well, when I was a kid, my mom used to tell me a bedtime story about a little wild fairy who lost her wings and got adopted by the lady who found her. That really stuck with me, and that little fairy was apparently inspired by my personality as a child. I didn't leave her completely wingless though. The idea for her wings came from my university days. Back when I was still studying, I was part of an a cappella group, if you can believe it, and one year, for our theme, we were bird watchers who eventually became the birds ourselves. We sang songs about feeling trapped while our wings were disguised as colored scarves. And eventually we began singing songs of freedom, and we unfurled our scarves dramatically to reveal wings. It was pretty cool. I intend to make my fairy's wings in a similar fashion, in the colors of the Demi flag. This way they look like she made them herself, to replace the one she doesn't have. Since this is a pixie, I dug around in my stock box for the smallest doll I have, and found this. Cave Club dolls are shorter but stockier than Monster High dolls, and I thought she had the perfect look for what I have in mind. I don't have much time to finish her, so let's waste no time and fly off to the work desk. Her hair is already cut and her face wiped off, so all I need to do is use my craft knife to cut a hole in her scalp. I do it this way because Cave Club dolls have very small neck holes, and this is the best way to access the hair plugs. Relieved that I didn't find gross gunky glue in there this time, I begin pulling the plugs out with tweezers before realizing it's just quicker to scratch them out with my fingers. I purposefully cut her head at an angle so that the beveled edge keeps the cap from falling inside. All clean! Before I do anything else, I want to make her a simple shirt and shorts set. So I made her a pattern using the plastic wrap and tape method, and I cut it from white fabric. Once I have all my pattern pieces cut out, I start by placing the pieces for the shorts right sides facing, and sew up the front crotch seam. Then I hem the waistband and sew up the booty seam, leaving a little gap for the closure. Before sewing up the inner seam, I cut the bottom of the shorts with some pinking shears to give them a pretty edge. Finally, I sew up the inner seam, turn them right side out, and we have some cute shorts. These were a bit too big though, so I remade them. For her shirt, I placed the back and front panels together right sides facing, and sewed up the shoulder seams. Then I sewed the sleeves to the shirt at the shoulders, and closed up the side seams. It's a pretty simple outfit, so let's decorate it. Using some white 100% acrylic yarn, I'm going to make yarn wefts to represent the hummingbird's feathers and make her look soft. To do this, I tie pieces of yarn to this little metal coat hanger and brush them out with a pet brush. This method is pretty widely used in the doll community at this point, but I do believe it was Mizakito who developed or popularized it. Once it's all brushed out, I can use my new mini straightener to straighten the fibers and make them extra silky. Then, over a piece of plastic, I cut them off and arrange them in a straight line before pouring school glue over the top of the wefts. I do the same thing with grey yarn and a mixture of grey and white. When the wefts are dry, I cut them into smaller strips I can work with and cut them a bit shorter, making sure to feather out the ends. Then I sew them to her little outfit using a whip stitch. I sew some of the grey ones to the shorts and add a small piece of Velcro in the back as a closure. I then sew the white wefts to the front of the shirt and grey in the back, and add a little pink zipper. I finish that off with a black collar that I also cut with pinking shears. Since this doll is based on a hummingbird, I imagined that she would drink nectar. So, to bring a little bit of green to her design, I'm mixing some green sparkly UV resin to make her a little vial. I use my half sphere mold and bake it under a UV lamp, then attach the two parts with some more resin. I found these cute Lego pieces that I thought would finish it off nicely, and it looks adorable. But now she needs a bag to put it in. Let's cut this basic bag pattern from some brown felt and use some purple embroidery thread to make chunky stitches to hold it together. To finish it off, I add a strap and a little purple button. To make her wings, I take a piece of white mesh and tape it down so it doesn't move around, before drawing the basic shape I want with a permanent marker. Then I take some watered down acrylic paints in purple, black, dark grey, and light grey to fill in the feathers. I was expecting this to be much more sheer, but it actually came out quite pigmented. Nice. As a final step, I cut around the shape to make it look more like wings, and add little loops of embroidery thread for her fingers to slide into later. Now we can sew the wings to the back of the collar. Circling back to the doll, I want her to have a split dye hairstyle. So I'm marking off where the colors need to go. I'm going to use yarn for this reroute in 2 shades of purple and black. However, instead of making yarn wefts and curling them, I decided I wanted a more natural look. I measure out about how long I want her hair to be, and unravel each piece of yarn to get the individual strands. Then I slip it onto my needle eye and reroute like I normally would. Doing it this way creates a more natural curly texture, which I thought would suit a forest pixie much better, as opposed to something that looks styled with a curling iron or something. I start with the lightest purple first, then the darker purple, and then the black on her head and the separate cap. To secure it all in place, I squeezed some all-purpose tacky glue in through the hole and smushed it around with the back of a pen so all the plugs are covered. The little cap gets basically the same treatment, and I set them aside to dry. Once they are dry, I mix up a 2-part epoxy glue and spread that all around the beveled edge of the vinyl. Then we can reunite her scalp like this. There we go. Much better. Before going any further, I mask her hair off to protect it and keep it out of the way for now. She needs some cute pixie ears, so I embed a needle. I embed some pins in her existing ears to sculpt on top of. This helps me gauge the position of the ears and gives the sculpting material something to hold on to. Speaking of which, I'm going to use this 2-part epoxy putty. It's not the easiest thing to work with, but it sets as hard as rock and adheres really well to plastic. Wearing some gloves, I mix 2 equal parts together. This step is kind of gross because at first it goes all dry and crumbly, but eventually we get a nice clay-like putty to work with. I also want to adjust her torso a bit to make her look younger and less curvy, so I rough up the plastic with an emery board to create some tooth for the putty. Then it's just a matter of pressing the putty into her body on the areas I want to bulk up, and smoothing it out with water where it feels a bit lumpy. Not a huge difference, but I do think it helps her look a bit younger. I wait for that to cure before sculpting her ears so that I don't accidentally smush it. To do this, I wrap a vaguely ear-shaped piece of putty around the pin, and then smush it around to form a pixie ear. I try to follow the curves of her existing ears and just drag the shape out a little bit further, if that makes any sense. Not my best work, but they're good enough, I think. I go over everything with some sandpaper to get it smooth and ready for painting. Now to get rid of that ugly putty color. I have a few Vallejo game air paints that I think I can mix together to match her body color. Color matching is always a little bit hard, but I just add a little by little and keep the doll close by for reference. I also painted one coat to check how it dries, since acrylic paint tends to darken and change a bit once it's dry. In this case, the color was really close, but it was too orange and needed some green undertones. So I added some green alcohol ink until I was satisfied with the shade. Then I wrap her up like a mummy to protect the parts I don't want to paint, before taking her to my makeshift airbrush station and painting her there. And with that, it's face-up time! I put on my gas mask and take her outside for a layer of airbrush MSC. I start by blushing her body and her face with some rusty red and brown soft pastels to breathe some light into the plastic. I also use pastels to mark where I want her dimples to go. After another coat of sealant, I can use a light brown pencil to map out the details of her face, like her ears, lips, little teeth, and dimples. I also draw some dirty spots and scratches on her legs and feet, because I imagine she's the kind of mischievous pixie who isn't too bothered by little scrapes and dirt while she's having fun. For her eyes, I draw them wider and more almond-shaped than the mold to sort of echo the long shape of her ears and add more pixie features to her overall look. This also makes her look more like she's smiling, which I like. I've never tried this, but I've always wanted to, so I decided to give her cute blobby eyebrows. And after doing terabytes with her tiny irises, I opt for giving this doll some nice big ones again. With the tip of my pencil, I draw some freckles across her cheeks, the bridge of her nose, and a few on her forehead. After I have all that done, I go in with my white pencil to color in her sclera and fill in her eyebrows. Now it's just a matter of deepening the colors with darker pencils, like a dark brown for her lip lines and eye creases. I use that same brown pencil to draw her pupils, which I'm also making nice and big, and block in some color in her irises. I add some highlights to her face using a white pencil, like on her nose, around her eyes, and above her lips. Here I tried fixing her eye blob color with purple, but it didn't do much, so I decided to just fix it later. I continued highlighting her face and added white to her little teeths. Then I used black to darken the lines around her eyes. I decided not to give her any individual lashes, because I think it also helps her look younger. For that same reason, I kept the colors of the Faceup very warm and natural for the most part. I used the black pencil to also color her pupils. It was around this point that I felt like my pencils weren't building much anymore, so I gave her one more spray of sealant and started mixing my paint. I used white acrylic paint to brighten up her sclera and her teeth, and a creamy beige to add some highlights. I also mixed watered down brown paint in different shades to dot on her freckles. To represent the white rings Costa's hummingbirds have around their eyes, I paint thick inner eye corner highlights with a cream color. With a chocolatey brown, I darken and define some lines on her face, and use various shades of rich brown for her irises. This is actually the first brown eye doll I'm making. I use a beige color again to highlight them. This time, I opted for a dark brown to paint her eyeliner instead of black. I feel like it adds a lot of warmth and gentleness to her face. And finally, I fix the eye blobby color and make it a nice bright purple to match her hair. As a final touch, I use a dotting tool to add round catch lights and my brush to add a thin line pointing towards them, almost like a shooting star. With her face done, we can unmask her hair. Oh, she looks adorable. I'm so happy with this. I have a cute upturned hairstyle in mind with some braids to mimic the way Costa's hummingbirds spread their feathers in mating season. It was at this point that I realized the ones I based her design off of are actually the males. So, I hope you can forgive me for taking an artistic liberty on this one too. I braid the purple strands I separated in the front and add some purple flowers all over her head. Oh, so cute! That's all the different parts of her done. Off camera, I also made her this flower using leftover putty and painted it to loosely resemble a purple hibiscus, with a black string for her to carry it with. I also adjusted the strap of her bag. And with that, she's done. So, what do you think? I think a good name for our pride flag pixie is Asali. It's a Swahili name given most often to girls, and according to Google, it means as sweet as honey. How did you like her? I think I'm the happiest with her face and hair. I've fallen kind of in love with this little cutie. She was really difficult to photograph though, and I realized I don't have any doll stand small enough to fit her. But as my partner reminded me, she's not the kind of pixie who thrives on perfection. If anything, she's all about mayhem. I decided not to give her shoes because I really like the cave club feet. Would you have given her some pixie shoes? I was also surprised by her wings. They didn't come out how I expected at all, and I'm happy that the colors are more vibrant than I thought they would be. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video just as much as I enjoyed making the doll. If you like this video and you think I deserve it, please consider giving it a big old-fashioned thumbs up and subscribing to my channel for more videos like this one. And please go show my collab partners and their channels some love. They are all super talented and were an absolute treat to work with. In my next video, I'll be doing something entirely outside of my comfort zone. So if you don't want to miss that when it comes out, boop that subscribe button, stick around, and as always, stay golden. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye! Contractor son. Yeah, my pops set you up. He's like, Emilio. I can't stand it. Why is he talking like that?